Welcome, everybody. This is wonderful. Now, is everybody comfortable? Because I think there's some more room around. I mean, maybe we can move some of the chairs closer in so some of those people can... Are you all okay?
Yes.
Well, this is really very exciting for me because this is the first event that I've had with my book. You are the very first. And I don't know if any of you know anything about the open heart, but in case you don't, I can explain to you what that's about. I grew up with a mother who was fairly extraordinary, and my two sisters. And my mom always used to say to me, darling, when life is tough and you think something's insurmountable, your natural instinct, and everyone's natural instinct, will be to close off their heart and to not let anything in or out, and just to keep that pain, that hurt, or those feelings very private. Said, however, said, in my experience, if you can accept what's happened, open your heart, and reach out in some way to help someone else, by that very act, by that you will have had a purpose. And by doing that, you will leave a vacuum where that pain is, and love and solution and purpose and a way of moving forward in life will happen in your life. And so I interpreted that as two hearts that connected, that were open, and that's what you see here. And I wrote a book called Open Hearts, and I did my research, and I discovered that every philosophy and every great thinker and every great prophet and every great book and everyone agreed on one thing at least, which was to open your heart. And I thought, you know, there's yoga and I mean everything we do to bring peace and centering into our lives is about opening your heart. And then, of course, the heart surgeon pointed out to me that if your heart wasn't open, you'd be dead. And that they make a lot of money based on hearts that aren't open. So, all in all, I had a lot of fun with the open heart. But really, this book, I'm more proud of this than any book I've ever done, because growing up, my mother's philosophy actually led into the way we lived in our lives, and our home was always full of people, and we didn't have much money, but that didn't matter. My mother, had survived World War II in a Japanese concentration camp, and with the friends that she made in the camp who survived, their dream was that one day they'd survive, and if they survived and ever got married and had kids, that their homes would be open to one another, and that they would open their hearts to one another, and that we would all become friends and like a giant family. And really, my idea, my concept of family, I don't know if anyone's read what I wrote in here, but this really sums up what I felt about family. I wanted to write this book because family to me is more than genetic. Fortunately, my genetic family is extraordinary, and we're very close. Probably because post-World War II, our parents were so grateful to have us and to be safe and alive. But family is more than genetics. It's about the moments we have in life when we touch or are touched by another in times of adversity or challenge. When we open our hearts and souls and trust one another with our deepest feelings. These people become our sisters, brothers, mothers, fathers. They are our open heart family, the ones who share a special bond with us. It can be anyone, even an animal that brings peace and love into our lives. This book celebrates not only the traditional family unit that our birth provides, but also the unexpected families that we create from the people we open our hearts to as we journey through life. Within these pages, you'll read stories by me, contributions from those touched by the message of open hearts, and words of wisdom from some of the greatest thinkers of history. We open our hearts, our family grows, so do we, and so hopefully can the world. So that's really what the book is about, and I've got some wonderful stories in here, some pieces that I wrote, but also some pieces that were sent to us over the internet. We opened this up to a small forum of people that communicate with me and who love open hearts anyway, and who are sending their beautiful stories. And I thought how wonderful it would be to actually be able to publish their stories as well. So some of these stories are very much edited versions of their much longer stories, but they were very specific to what Open Hearts Family means. And we have a website, keepanopenheart.com, where people send us stories all the time, and we're able to share them, and it's really become quite a phenomenon. We also have a foundation now called the Open Hearts Foundation, and what we do is we're able to honor and select people who have taken a challenge in their lives and turned it into an opportunity to help countless others. One of the people we honored last year was Robin Roberts, and for example, what she did for people who are suffering from cancer is just unbelievable. I mean, she came out there and said, okay, you know, this is hell. This is what I'm having to deal with, and I'm going to let you see me up close and personal as I go through this. So many people that would keep this diagnosis to themselves privately, you know, suffer through this. They realized that by joining hands with other people who were going through it, that they could find hope, a positive attitude, a family of people that they could connect with as they went through that journey. And indeed through recovery. And I hear that here in your community you have an amazing event for breast cancer, which is quite wonderful. But there are a lot of different people that you connect with along the way. There's a story in here. I was going to read a couple of them. I don't know if you want me to do that or just talk about them, but there's one that's particularly interesting to me at the moment, because my husband and I, we're making a movie right now about Glenn Campbell and about his final tour. And I don't know if you know, but Glenn Campbell is considered one of the greatest guitarists of his generation, obviously one of the greatest performers. He obviously had a ridiculously turbulent life, but he's a man of great faith. And he and his family decided when he was diagnosed with Alzheimer's not to hide it, but to come forward and to actually perform fully with Alzheimer's. It's deceiving, because the last thing to go with Alzheimer's is music and the arts. And isn't it interesting? That's the one thing we're taking out of our schools, music and arts. How does that happen? I painted with him last week, and he didn't know what to do. He said, I've never painted, I don't really know what to do. And he came up with this absolutely beautiful painting. I said, just express yourself with what's your favorite color? And he said, blue. And I said, here's blue, and there's another blue, and there's another blue, and there's some purple. And he just did this magical painting. And he had the best time. His wife looked at me and said, thank you, because when he's not singing and performing now, I have something for him to do that he really loves. But Alzheimer's, as you know, has become a huge, huge issue. And I just heard recently that in 20 years from now, when I'm 80, 1 in 2 of my generation will have Alzheimer's or dementia, for which there is now known cure. But there's one story here, this lady, a friend of mine, she wrote, which I thought was rather beautiful, about opening your heart. She put, light through darkness. My mother and I always had a challenging relationship. We never saw the world or my life the same way. Though she was an accomplished artist herself, she stood in the way of me following my own passion for a career in the arts. However, my mother succumbed to Alzheimer's disease, and our roles reversed. I've become her caregiver and decision maker, which she has had to accept. But a miracle occurred too. Every time I visit my mother, I act, sing, and perform the very arts that I was once denied, but now pursue with gusto. My fairly unresponsive mother smiles with a twinkle in her eye. We have found another way to open our hearts to each other before it's too late. There was a light through the darkness of my mother's disease. By the very nature of Alzheimer's, the past is erased. There is only the present, a time to be even more loving and compassionate. So this is one of the stories that we have here that I love. My mom, I mentioned, had been in World War II, and the World War II, the war was about to happen, and she was living in Indonesia in the jungle, actually, and her best friend was pregnant, so she had the opportunity to get out before the war, but she decided she couldn't leave her very pregnant best friend. And so they stayed there together, and they went through 3.5 years of absolute hell. And my mother always told me that the reason she was able to survive the war and not be completely crazy afterwards, although she did like to eat a lot, she said, no one's ever denied me food again. And she was, Weight Watchers was always tomorrow. She was on the Weight Watchers tomorrow diet. Which, one had to forgive her for. But she told me this amazing story. Before she ever had children of her own, my mother Nika was inspired by the women she cared for in a concentration camp in Java during World War II. It was a terrible place where the sickest were sent to die. The water was unclean, dirty bandages were reduced to rags, and there was no medicine or antiseptic. Tirelessly, my mother went among her patients, trying to make them comfortable, with kind words and a listening ear, her only resources, which, by the way, is what she did till the day she died. That's how she gave back and helped other people. She became very close to one woman in particular who had a quickly used it to look at her wound, lost all hope, and died. Overwhelmed by helplessness and despair, starved and exhausted by her own struggle to stay alive, my mother took to her bed, heartbroken. She'd lost all hope. Her youthful optimism destroyed by the realities of war. The matron came to see her and demanded she get up and carry on. It was a pivotal moment. Would she succumb to her feelings of grief and helplessness, or stand up for love and be of service to others? My mother chose the latter, and from that moment on, she looked for the positive in life and determined that should she survive, she would become a mother herself and teach her children how to love. So that's kind of the source, it's where it came from. And there are some beautiful images in this book. Most of them are my paintings, but there are some extraordinary ones, like this one of my mom from the camps. And this was done by an artist in the camp in a visitor's book that my mother managed to smuggle in and keep hidden in a mattress. How she did this, we don't know, but there was some absolutely beautiful things in there, and we decided to publish a couple of those images. I went through a lot of challenges in my life. I've had 3 near-death experiences myself. I know how important it is to live in this present moment, how important it is to tell the ones you love that you love them. And that's why this book to me is a great way to say to people, you have impacted my life so much that I feel you are like my other mother or my sister. You are as close to me as any human being could ever be. And, you know, people feel that way, especially when they go through trauma or through special circumstances. And I just felt that this book would be a great way to celebrate that, to celebrate the love you share with people. And you could always buy a greetings card, and you know they can read it once and put it away. Or, you know, with this book, there's a nice little purple page here. You can write your own message. You can write your own personal feelings. And this is just something. There are some sad stories, but actually the point of every story is that it all comes around to being something incredibly positive and life affirming. And you know, every moment that we have on this planet is special. And I realized when I had my near-death experience that the only thing you take with you is the love you've shared with other people and the difference you've made, the impact you've had on other people that you've come across. So really, family is what it's all about. And, you know, whether you ever did get married or didn't, or had children or didn't, or still have your parents or don't, that's immaterial. You know, you create your own family, and your family could be your dog, it could be your cat, it could be your neighbor, it could be someone you met in the hospital, it could be anyone. I started painting when I lost everything about 21 years ago. I went through a terrible divorce. I lost everything financially and emotionally. My husband turned out to be an addict alcoholic. He'd also lied and cheated and lost everything that I'd earned. And at the height of my career, I realized that I was penniless, homeless, and had unbelievable debts from banks I'd never even heard of, for which he'd got me to somehow sign personal notes. So this is way beyond me, because I still have yet to pass basic math. I always tell people I'm very good at earning money. I try not to spend too much, but I'm really awful at counting it. Algebra and I, we never got along. But I, at that time, took my mother's advice, and I gave the last money I had at a silent auction for a child abuse agency called Child Help. There's an artist had offered on a silent auction to do a drawing or painting of your children, and for a donation. And I just thought, well, I'm going to have nothing, but no one's going to want this picture of my children, and this way I can help, these poor countless kids who are abused. I mean, they really have no choice in life, and this is, to me, about as insidious as it gets. And so I did that, and the artist came to my house, saw these little finger paintings I'd done in my kids' nursery, and asked who did them, and I said, obviously me, and he said, they're very good. I said, they're finger paintings and finger paint paper with finger paint. And he said, well, but they're good, are you an artist? I said, well, in high school. And he said, well, I'll give you some lessons, and of course I had to tell him the truth. I'm about to be homeless, I definitely don't have any money for art supplies, so, that's probably not a very good idea. And he said, no, watercolor. You can take it with you wherever you go, and you can express yourself, and I'm going to teach you. So for free, he taught me, gave me a couple of lessons in watercolor, and the next thing I knew, it was my healing. So my artwork, and I just had a major art show in Jacksonville, and some of the people here are my collectors, and I'm very excited about that. I had about 100 or more pieces there showing, and I paint a lot of different things, a lot of different mediums, but I always paint hope, love, happiness, joy. I look to the positive in life. I see no reason, as did my mother, in dwelling in the pain or the past. There's no reason. I move on, move forward. And in fact, even that ex-husband of mine is now a good friend of the family, and you know, we were all able to get along and love one another. So this book has a lot of paintings in here, including pets. I know some of you like pets. I have stray cats, and this particular cat has a little half mustache, so we called him Stashy. And this is a recent oil painting of Stashy. Actually, Stashy made it into this book twice. And I just love the fact that we adopted a cat that's, the vet said, excuse me, this is a feral cat. And I said, you don't understand, this is my feral cat. Stashy is the friendliest cat on the planet. And in fact, just the other day, we saw him outside, and he was about to just capture a little field mouse, because he's a wild cat. And we're all looking, we go, oh no, Stashy, don't. But we know that's what Stashy does. And we filmed it, and Stashy went right up to this little mouse, and the mouse went right up to Stashy's nose, and they looked at one another, and they pretty much kissed. And then they backed off, and then they came towards him, and basically he made friends with the field mouse. And we did something we never do. We actually put it up on YouTube. So if you're looking for something cute, Stashy is now a star. I spoke earlier about the foundation. What we do with the foundation, we've had 2 events so far, is we honor these people, usually 3 people that the public have heard of, and one